The cycling community is no stranger to tough debates, but some issues keep coming back. Louder, more complex, and harder to ignore. From transgender athlete bans to doping comebacks and tech wars, these aren't just growing pains, they're battle lines. You thought cycling was about freedom, health, and community? Not anymore. Behind the scenes, it's chaos, and it's tearing the sport apart. Here's the truth they don't want you to see. You'd think in a world built on freedom, balance, and motion, cycling would be the one place we all just ride in peace. But nah, not even close. Behind the scenic routes, the shiny carbon frames, and the weekend group rides, the cycling world's been spinning through some serious drama. And not just recently. Some of these debates have been going on for decades. I'm talking divisions that split riders, brands, and even national federations. From doping scandals that still hang over grand tours, to identity debates that are forcing the sport to look inward. And yeah, let's not forget the wheel size wars or the endless back and forth about what actually makes a real cyclist. Thing is, these aren't just headlines or forum threads. These are the conversations shaping the future of the sport. So let's dig in, one topic at a time. Trans inclusion in competitive cycling. This one's loud. Probably the most sensitive and heated issue in the cycling world right now. British Cycling and the UCI changed the game in 2023 when they rolled out new eligibility rules for transgender women. The short version? If you didn't transition early, basically before puberty, you're out of the elite women's races. That ruling hit hard, especially since even the UCI's own scientific panel admitted the research is limited and inconclusive. But they still moved forward with the ban. Athletes and advocates pushed back fast. Groups like All In Racing raised red flags, saying this wasn't about fairness. It felt more like exclusion dressed up as policy. Even the British Medical Journal jumped in, calling out the oversimplification of using testosterone as the only factor. I know cycling isn't just raw power. There's race IQ, VO2 max, recovery time, team tactics. All that matters too. And here's where it gets even messier. While we're tightening rules for trans athletes, some of the biggest pro teams are racing under countries that criminalize LGBTQ plus identities altogether. So what message are we really sending? It's not just about inclusion anymore. It's about what kind of sport we want this to be. Still chasing the ghosts, doping. Ask anyone who's been in the saddle long enough. They'll tell you the shadow of doping hasn't left the peloton. Sure, we've moved on from the Armstrong days, but let's not pretend it's over. We've had microdosing strategies flying under the radar, AI-enhanced masking agents. And now, that old Operación Puerto case? Yeah, it's resurfacing. Names are being rechecked. Blood bags from years ago, suddenly relevant again. And fans? We're skeptical. A rider puts out freakish watts on a climb. And what's the first thought? Not celebration. It's suspicion. It's unfair for clean riders who are putting in the work. But when the sport's history is stacked with stripped titles and broken trust, it's tough to blame people for second-guessing what they see. Even in grassroots racing, there's whispering. Because this isn't just a world tour issue. It's cultural, and it's still here. Bike industry economics. Let's talk money. Remember when we couldn't get bikes during the pandemic? Yeah, that flipped fast. Now in 2025, warehouses are full, prices are dropping, and brands, especially mid-tier ones, are hurting. Shops that were thriving 2 years ago are offering 40% off carbon frames and still struggling to move stock. Add to that the e-bike explosion. Direct-to-consumer brands are taking huge market share, offering cheaper builds and faster shipping. The old players? They're scrambling. And now with the EU's new safety and environmental rules kicking in this August, especially for batteries, things are getting tighter. Small brands can't keep up with certification costs, which means more consolidation, more exits, and fewer choices for riders. And that's not even touching on supply chain chaos. Remember Harley-Davidson shifting to Thailand? EU slapped a 50% tariff anyway. The bike world isn't immune to that. One trade move, and your favorite model vanishes for a year. For folks who just want a reliable ride, it's getting harder to even find one that isn't tied to a mess behind the scenes. Wheel size wars, the never-ending debate. Alright, this one's lighter, but don't underestimate it. Nothing splits mountain bikers like the wheel size debate. 26-inch, 27.5-inch, 29-inch, everybody's got an opinion. And those opinions are strong. Polls still show that a huge number of riders stick to 26-inch, even though most brands have dropped support for it. Some call it nostalgia. Others call it performance that still holds up. Either way, folks feel like they're being forced into upgrades they didn't ask for. Critics are calling out the industry's love for planned obsolescence, pushing new standards every few years just to keep the sales wheel spinning. And yeah, 29 Airs have benefits. But if you've been riding the same trails for a decade on your 26-inch setup and suddenly you can't get tires or rims for it, that doesn't feel like innovation. It feels like abandonment. This debate goes beyond numbers. It's about who gets to decide when your gear is outdated. And right now, riders are starting to push back. Cyclist licensing, cracking down, or missing the point. Over in the UK, the government's floating a bold idea. Cyclists might need licenses and insurance. Lord Hoganhowe's argument: cyclists break rules too often. Red lights, crosswalks, bike lanes turned into racetracks. He says if cyclists want to share the road, they should share the responsibility too. Now, that's got people fired up on both sides. Supporters say it's about accountability. But critics? They see a thinly veiled attempt to shift blame in a car-dominated culture. And they worry it'll discourage cycling altogether, just as cities are finally starting to support greener transport. And for every reckless e-bike flying down the sidewalk, there's 10 cars parked in a bike lane. Licensing cyclists won't fix that. But the conversation is gaining steam. And if these policies get serious, it could change how cities are designed, how commuting works, and how accessible cycling really is for the average person. Here we are at. Cycling's never been just a sport. It's a lifestyle, a culture, a release. It's personal, and that's exactly why these issues matter so much. Whether it's who gets to race, how clean the peloton is, which tech stays relevant, or who gets priced out of riding altogether. Each debate shapes what cycling will look like next. Not just at the Tour de France, but on every street, trail, and alley around the world. We don't need to agree on everything. In fact, we probably shouldn't. That's how progress works. But we should keep asking the right questions. So yeah, the road ahead's bumpy. But if there's one thing every rider knows, it's this. Sometimes the best rides aren't the smoothest. They're the ones that challenge you, make you sweat, make you feel, and remind you why you got on the bike in the first place. Remind you why you fell in love with the ride. Thanks for watching. Drop your take in the comments. If you found it helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more bike news and reviews.